Welcome back to Influencer Chat, recapping the circle. I'm Ben. I'm joined by Brian, and we are here to break down episode 9 to 13, including the finale of season 5 of The Circle US on Netflix. We have a lot to talk about here. We have 5 episodes to cover. We have a winner to talk about. We have a lot to digest. Do you have any overarching thoughts here before we jump in, Ryan?
Yeah, the 4-4-4-1 schedule makes podcasting very strange. Because I feel like if we had covered all 4 episodes, like we normally do earlier in the week, we would have had almost nothing to talk about for this finale podcast.
Which is why we did it this way.
Yeah, I think we made the right decision. Because this last episode was quick.
It was a lot of nothing.
A lot of nothing. And I mean, the circle can be a lot of nothing at times. We know that, but this is really just like a bare bones, in terms of interesting content. So, this is good. I'm excited because we last left off with Marvin barely surviving the block, basically, and he wouldn't survive for much longer. He was pretty dead in the water coming into this batch of episodes.
Yeah, no, I mean, even after the girls' chat in episode 7, I think, that was pretty much the point where it's like, okay, yeah, Marvin can't win the season. It's just completely unwinnable. Whether he gets blocked or whether he somehow is able to sneak through to the end and probably come in 5th, there's no realistic shot for him to win at that point.
Yeah, that plus it's just him not really realizing his mistake in a meaningful way so that he could even try to do damage control really was unfortunate. But don't cry for Marvin, because Marvin's staying booked. He's going to be on BB Titans, which is an African version of Big Brother, I heard it's like the Nigerian Big Brother and the South African Big Brother coming together. So he's going to be down on that. I'm sure he'll be very entertaining. I look forward to any clips that come out of that. And, don't cry for Marvin, because he's not too down, it seems.
Yeah, it's the Africa doing what North America can't.
I know, right?
People have been clamoring for a BBUS versus BB Can season for years now. And we're just getting completely outdone. Hopefully, maybe at some point we'll have the, maybe when people's, once the stench of BB22 is off of BBUS's All-Star pool, we can move forward, something like that. But this is his 3rd reality TV appearance in the last year.
Yeah, and he was narrowly on American Big Brother. I don't know if going on an international season disqualifies you from American Big Brother, but maybe BB Can is next. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't for BB Can necessarily. Yeah. We've had 2 international alums and almost a US alum end up on BB Can. So,
yeah. Speaking of which, I'm so fucking excited for BB Can. That's our next reality podcast. I'm so excited.
I am really annoyed still that BB Can 10 is not on Paramount Plus yet. I need to see you watch that and get your reaction to it finally.
Yeah, as soon as it drops, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, you can always borrow a VPN or watch it.
That's true. That's true.
It's pretty. I get to watch it.
I get to watch all the awesome Canadian commercials on the global site. But so enough promo for our other stuff. This is an interesting batch. I think a very you kind of got the storyline of how Marvin screws himself over, and then it kind of led into the storyline of Jennifer, how they screwed themselves over and ultimately would end up finishing in 5th place, making the finale, which is great, but not having a chance to really make any noise in the finale, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like we probably can trace back like it's very easy to point at a lot of Jennifer's mistakes in this third batch of episodes as to why they lost. But like I would probably trace back Tom agreeing with Chaz to block Sasha over Marvin as like probably the moment where like either Raven or Sam is going to win the season no matter what. Like it's basically going to be impossible for anybody else to win the season after that point. Which is ironically funny for Chaz. I think that Chaz also like arguably screws himself over there because like you could say that maybe if Chaz has a downfall but is able to survive it, he comes into a finale with less of a target and is able to like actually squeak through a victory with strategic voting. Whereas here he has basically no shot, in my opinion, even though he got way closer than I think we expected him to.
Dude, I 100% expected him to like be like even up to like fourth. So let alone that he came in second was like crazy to me.
Yeah. I after like kind of the sequence, I kind of figured that he came in second. Like I had like a pretty accurate, I think, guess on what the final ranking was going to be after the like leading into that sequence. And I kind of saw Sam's win coming from like 5 or 10 minutes into the finale based off of how they were editing it. But I definitely coming into the finale did not expect Chaz to get as close as he did. Yeah. But yeah, so I do agree that the 4-episode batch from 9 to 12 was basically like the fall of Jennifer. But I don't really, I don't know how much higher Jennifer really could have gotten, even if she didn't make a bunch of unforced errors.
No, I mean, really, it was just like Brett and Xanthi were just holding on for dear life, just like trying to do whatever they could just to get to the end, let alone have a chance to win. And unfortunately, cost Tom, our British. Is he a noble? I don't know. I don't know, but he lives in the Tower of London. He's made that abundantly clear. He invited them to the Tower of London.
Yeah, he's so like funny. He's like the equivalent of like the Secretary of Agriculture in terms of like you know, if these like 37 people all like get hit by a meteor at the same time, then he might become like the prince or something.
Yes. Yeah, we're pulling for you, Tom. our first reality royal.
Yeah. Well, you know, it depends how you count. What's that called? What was the fake dating show where people were pretending to date?
God, yeah,
Prince Harry.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It was like, do you want to marry Harry or something?
Yeah, marry Harry or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that show. Yeah. Man, we really do need to one day get like a list of old shows to binge.
Yeah. We have to do like a most fucked up, you know, reality show tier because that's probably top 5, top 10.
Oh my God, yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, that's kind of like, you know, it's up there. It was it caused a lot of, I think, mental mental anguish, long-lasting mental anguish to the contestants, from my understanding.
Yeah, that one where they made girls get plastic surgery. That was a real fucked up one.
Man, the 2000s were wild.
Did not care. Like there was not. They didn't. Reality TV producers did not want to hear the word no. They didn't have that in their vocabulary. Just every insane show, they were like, put it on.
No, ethics standards. What is that?
I know. It's so fucked.
This was like, you know, when this was in the small fraction of time after reality TV started popping off, before, you know, a broad understanding of mental health was like widely understood. So yeah, real bad time for people who got sucked into that vortex.
Hey, the TikTok kids are romanticizing the 2000s now. I hope they bring back the fucked up reality TV landscape
Well, I
of
mean,
the 2000s.
that's what happens consistently. We romanticize the '90s, and Zoomers have to romanticize the 2000s now, right? Everyone romanticizes the time where they grew up, or like right before they grew up.
I'm very interested, or like I got to talk to some Gen X or older millennials and be like, when our generation was romanticizing the 90s, were you like, that's insane? The 90s were horrible, because that's how I feel about the 2000s.
I mean, I'm like even self-aware enough to like understand that about the 90s, I think.
Yeah. You go back and watch some TV shows from the 90s, and it's just like so much gay panic, like an insane amount in every like mainstream show.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
Anyways, back on track.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. It's a good tangent. Also, keep in touch. Maybe we'll eventually get to talk about the reality shows that we want to talk about at some point.
Yes.
But yeah, so the fall of Jennifer really kind of starts out here in episode 9 with the first unforced error of their brilliant plan with the hacker twist. So I don't know about you, Brian, but literally as this initial scene of them in the inner circle doing the hacker twist played out, I basically was able to predict exactly what ended up happening to a T, because the second it gets revealed to people that there is a hacker, exactly what happened is always going to happen, which is people are going to care less about the fake information you put out and like that propagating into a lie that matters. And people are actually going to care more about figuring out who's the hacker so they can villainize them.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, the literal only way you can play this twist is to try to do it in like a smart way where you are sloppy about it in a way that like frames somebody else as being the hacker and like not actually care about the information you're trying to frame.
Right, with the knowledge that the hacker is going to be revealed, can you just hack yourself and then have like a weird conversation to the point where it's very obviously not you with somebody, and then you're just immediately, and then maybe you can frame it's like, well, who would have beef with me? It must be the person who doesn't like me, who like made me hacked. I 100% doubt the circle would let you, unless like you're really compelling and you're like pitch for this,
Yeah, I mean, I think that like if you could hack yourself, you would it is probably the correct move, because it like immediately doesn't, like nobody would expect that to be a thing. But I doubt they would let you do that. So I think the smarter thing to do would be to like, I don't know, like how should Jennifer have done this? Probably like hack somebody, like maybe try to, instead of like spreading a negative lie that's very easy to like fact check, basically like have a conversation with a random person at like, make it so random that it's completely impossible to trace, and make the like information that you're trying to push be clearly beneficial to another person. So like make it clearly beneficial for Tamira, so that when the fake conversation comes out, they'll be like, oh, they were clearly trying to push a narrative that Tamira is like a good person, or is like, doing something that's good in my best interest. So obviously Tamira would be the hacker. Like that's how you actually, as Jennifer, get heat onto Tamira, is to frame her for being the hacker. If that's your ultimate goal.
Agreed. And hopefully if someone's listening to this who goes on to the circle someday, that that's what they do if they get the hacker power.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they'll ever do the hacker power again, just because I don't know. Like, in my opinion, it kind of flopped. I know it created a lot of drama, but it didn't really create a lot of like interesting drama for me. And the more interesting stuff was just like kind of how it reinforced Chaz's position in the game. And like some of the conversations with Tom and Jennifer even were like interesting on paper, but like I don't super think that Tom was acting very rationally in like a lot of his reasoning, even if he ended up doing, in my opinion, the correct things. So I don't know. I hope they don't do it again. But if they do it again, I hope that the person who gets it is smarter about it.
Agreed. We'll have to see, but yeah, it didn't work. But it didn't matter at first because Tom got that second influencer slot. Chad's had number one. Chad's really an impressive game. Like this is almost like the the circle equivalent of like just doing a run of immunities like in a row. He won the influencer 5 times, right?
I think
4
4.
times.
Yeah, I think there was. I think the only time he doesn't win is his upcoming one with Raven and Sam, where they end up blocking Marvin finally. Yeah, because he was influencer at the start, and then he was influencer at the start, and then he was influencer like episode 4, and then he was influencer in the second batch when they ended up blocking Sasha, and then he was super influencer at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's very interesting how they did the hacking thing. So it's like we're gonna expose you, but we're gonna let the secret out. And after the ratings, which is really interesting, and it kind of like made Sam, second guess her decisions to rate Tamira low, and definitely kind of put her on like the path to, be bonded tighter with like Chaz and Raven. Not that they were ever not tight, but this really solidified them. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like because, and this is why this kind of feeds back into what I said about like how you should use the hacker power, because it was revealed, and they were able to figure out the conversation that happened. Sam and Chaz were able to immediately be like, "Oh, Tamira is not the hacker then, because why would she be spreading fake rumors about herself that make her look bad?"
Right.
Which is exactly why, if you're the hacker in the future, you should do it in a way where you're the Tamira, right? So like, this would have been an incredibly smart thing for Tamira to have done if she were the hacker, because it completely clears her and it frames somebody like Jennifer and Tom. So.
Right. Ultimately, it didn't matter this round because Raven was 100% out on Marvin, and I'm sure Sam was just kind of like, all right, like if you want Marvin out, fine, like no skin off my back. If anything, good for me because I can take Marvin's place.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll say it straight up that like I think that it's getting Marvin out was by far the best move for Sam, right? It basically eliminated that entire like subsection of the like ratings that were going to be pro Raven. Like Raven getting rid of Marvin was horrible for her. In my opinion, lost her the game. So all of that kind of rating like juice or whatever you want to call it that was left over is going to end up seeping back to Sam, and is why Sam is in a very pro Sam finale at the very end, and why she ends up ultimately winning the season. So it's hilarious because this happens quite a lot, I think, on the circle, where people end up advocating for the wrong person to the other influencer, and the person who caves is actually in the better spot. This kind of, I think, happened even with the Brittany and Bruno situation early, even though it didn't really end up having that important of a impact. So yeah, I agree. I think that Raven just was like, no, I want Marvin out. You're giving me information about Jennifer and Tom that I have no way of cross-checking or verifying. It's like completely pulled out of your ass and speculative. Whereas I know 100% that Marvin, is two-timing me and is like completely untrustworthy. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Too bad for Marvin. He was fun. on his time on the circle. I am excited to see where he ends up next after Big Brother Titans.
Probably the challenge, probably the
Probably the
MTV version of the
challenge.
challenge, I would
He
assume.
would probably do well on the challenge.
Yeah. Well, I saw
He's
they're
pretty
doing a
athletic.
new. I saw Netflix. I think is doing a new reality like dating show with a
Oh,
bunch of people from other
you're right.
Netflix shows,
Yeah. I
like Too
saw
Hot
that
to
as well.
Handle and like The Circle and stuff.
Yeah,
I
Joey, winner
was
of season 1. He's
Yep,
gonna be on
Joey's
it.
on there. There's like a handful
Chloe,
of
of course.
Circle alum. Yeah, it's Chloe, of course.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to not see Marvin on that list.
Yeah, he was too busy.
Yeah. So probably going to end up being in the Big Brother house when that happens is why.
Yeah. So I almost feel like they probably were like, how do we get Chloe back on a show? And then kind of built the show out from there.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, look, I loved Chloe. I didn't watch Too Hot to Handle. I heard it was fun, kind of like a good like fun like popcorn reality show.
Yeah.
But I loved Chloe on The Circle, so I would love to see
Yeah.
her back on another TV show.
She's a star. She's a star to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Marvin, good luck on season 2 of that. I hope you find love on that show. But yeah, now kind of begins like the long drawn out downfall of Jennifer.
Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of where Jennifer loses a lot, like particularly with Sam. Sam is the one that is mostly going to go from like, oh, I love Jennifer to oh, I hate Jennifer and want her out. And Sam's opinion ends up being pretty important down the stretch. So losing that and it kind of being like completely unsalvageable, it's pretty much just a nail in her coffin at that point.
Yeah. I want to give Brett some credit here. On Big Brother, if you watch that, you kind of saw Brett as a very like loyal to his alliance type of a player. He did not come in with that energy to the circle at all.
Mm-hmm.
He was ready to do whatever it took to get to the end, and I commend him for that because that's the kind of player I like to see.
Yeah, I guess what did you think about the way Tom reacted to the news initially about the hacker, the speculation from Sam and Chaz that Jennifer was the hacker, and then getting the confirmation from Jennifer afterwards that she was indeed the hacker?
I mean, obviously Tom was a little disappointed. I think he kind of realized in the moment, this is like, okay, the fact that Jennifer was the hacker, I can't like care about. Like,
Yeah.
Jennifer is my only ally at this point. And clearly he did not expect Jennifer to, spike him in the ratings, or he would have done the same. So I think maybe he gets to the end if he does that, but he doesn't seem like that type of player right now,
Yeah, I think the one thing that I noticed was he very much was harping on this idea that Jennifer lied to him, which I didn't really get because from my perspective as a viewer at least, Jennifer never actually lied to Tom. Obviously, there were lies by omission, and obviously Jennifer is a catfish, so obviously from that perspective, that is a lie. But I could never really understand what Tom thought the lie was. I don't know if you had any insight on that.
Yeah, obviously it's either by omission. He expected like Jennifer to just tell him, or perhaps they just didn't show a conversation where they had it, where they just like checked in and were like, "Are you the hacker?" No. Okay, I believe you.
Yeah. I mean that kind of makes sense, I guess. That kind of like it felt to me like he was very much getting sidetracked on that.
Yeah.
From my perspective, incorrect detail, as opposed to caring more about doing damage control. In particular, I think more so than the hacker fiasco. Tom's game probably takes a dip because of Sasha's message that we kind of glossed over a little bit, where for some reason, I guess probably out of either the producers told him to, or out of annoyance or spite or whatever, that that he was rejected and blocked. Shuby decides to drop the I made a Revolutions chat with the 5 new players, neglecting obviously to say that it went absolutely nowhere and nobody else bought into it clearly. So I don't know. What was your kind of thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of unfortunate because it's not like any of the other players were into it, like you said. So they kind of got like guilt by association for something that they didn't even participate in.
Yeah.
It's like getting arrested for robbing a convenience store when you were like sitting in your car outside of it, not like paying attention.
Yeah, definitely. And I also, this is another instance of me with Tom where I'm just kind of like shaking my head, where he's like, oh, my biggest mistake was not, telling everybody about this immediately and like groveling at their feet for forgiveness.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, no, your biggest mistake was blocking Sasha, because that kind of set off the dominoes. And at that point, the dominoes were kind of falling over. There was not really much you could have done to stop them. It's not like if he had groveled at Chaz's feet and said, hey, I'm sorry that I was dragged into this chat, said nothing, and then moved on with my life. Chaz would have been like, oh, of course, Tom, you can have second place now instead of Raven.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I mean, he's still gonna choose Raven and Sam over you. Like,
we talked about it. I think. Well, did we talk about it on the podcast? I want to say we did. Where this probably would have been the right decision for a lot of the players to just do.
Yeah,
they just couldn't be convinced of it. So it's like no, shame in Shuby's game going for this. More just like unfortunate the other players didn't realize that this was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, this was like, I don't know. We see this a lot in Survivor and occasionally in Big Brother, right? Where the underdogs have a technical numeric majority over what is like considered the majority alliance, even though it's like theoretically, technically a minority group. But because they can't actually coalesce, it doesn't matter. Actually, it probably happens more often in Big Brother than in Survivor, because in Survivor it's usually a little bit more straightforward. So it's not uncommon, and I think it's in the circle. It's also a lot harder because a lot of stuff is way more anonymous with your rankings and votings, and a lot of things also are a lot harder to communicate because you're basically having like one chat a day, and these decisions are happening in the course of like 2 to 3 days. So you basically have like 1 to 2 conversations to really solidify an alliance with these people that you like barely know. So yeah, you kind of have to have like org mentality where it's like, oh, I don't actually care about the social element here. I care about the on paper strategic correct, Vanessa Russo decision, where it's like, take emotions out of it. Whereas everybody's priorities lie.
Yeah. So you're saying if she came in there and was like, Gabe, theoretically speaking, our best move is to do this.
Yeah.
It would have worked.
What's your incentives? What's your incentives?
Yeah.
The
incentive. Yeah. I love Vanessa so much. Icon.
These old players, they're like silly.
She's really like when like I heard like the term gaslighting, I didn't fully understand it until I watched Vanessa play Big Brother, and I was like, oh, that's what gaslighting is. That is very effective in her hands, anyways.
Yeah. No, big. We stand Vanessa Russo in this podcast and all of our podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah. If we have
a Mount Rushmore of our favorites, she would be on it for sure.
Yeah. Talk about why BB22 is a dog shit season. Because Vanessa Russo wasn't on it.
Yep. Exactly. Oh my god,
Yeah.
her in that house would have been chaos.
Yeah. Definitely wouldn't have had a committee in the final 6
No,
or final 7 or whatever.
even Rachel Riley would have shaken up that game. I feel like a lot. Anyways, getting sidetracked. But yeah, I guess you didn't know we don't like Big Brother 22 on this network.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would probably not have multiple tangents where I talk about hating it on a completely separate television show podcast if I didn't have to podcast an entire season about it, fucking slog through it.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely didn't help.
Yeah. So no, it didn't help at all. But yeah, so we have like a double twist, which was surprising to me because I didn't expect them. I expected like maybe like a twist, a normal round, and a twist rather than a normal round and then 2 rounds that were one twist kind of. Yeah, so Tom is getting the guilt by association with Jennifer for what they did. Brett realizes that they're going to be the bottom 2 pretty much no matter what, and they have to just put Tom as their last place if they have any hope. And I think ultimately that was correct, and ultimately they probably would have gone out if they hadn't done that.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as the twists go, I think that like super influencer for the final round makes a lot of sense. I think that kind of just tracks, right? You have so few people left, and it's also like an extremely important round. So like trying to get 2 influencers in there, making a collective decision is probably going to be messy in a way that like isn't super compelling TV, or is probably just going to result in somebody random going out. Whereas a super influencer is in theory a little bit more exciting. It ends up not being as much here, but yeah, I think I did expect though the instant blocking round to be the Marvin vote round, and I think that probably would have been better because it would have meant that the hacker twist actually had some strategic weight to it, even if you didn't play it perfectly, because Jennifer would have been able to successfully get Tamira out. And then also on top of that, the backlash to the misplays still would have happened, which I think still would have been fine. So
yeah, no, definitely for sure. But it was an interesting round as it was.
Yeah,
Tom definitely didn't think that he was going to go from, number 2 votes ago to being the lowest
number 1.
rated.
Yeah,
Number one. Oh my god, you're right. He's number 1.
Yep.
So just a terrible downfall.
Yeah, immediate fall from grace, just like influencer to middle or number 1 influencer, middle of the pack, and instant blocked last place.
Yeah. But it was fun to see him go and visit Jennifer, and like I was surprised a little bit in the moment they didn't tell him, but I guess they were just like, this is really awkward. We don't want to.
Well,
It's such good vibes. We don't want to ruin this vibe.
Well, no, I think it's strategically correct, right? I think that's why Brett was so pushy on it, because they had just experienced their spot being blown up by Sasha, aka Shuby, exposing the Revolutions chat and his goodbye message. I think that if Tom goes immediately from, oh, we rated you last in order to eliminate you and save ourselves, from that into his goodbye message, you could probably guarantee Tom being like, fuck Jennifer. I'm going to make sure that my goodbye message makes it impossible for her to win the game.
That's fair. Definitely. Oh, man. Oliver, thanks for coming, man. I hope you had a good couple of days in the circle. No. Horrible spot to be put into the game at. There's no way he was ever going to win, but really no way he was ever going to gain any like real traction, right?
Yeah, it sucks because like I do think if Oliver is in an initial group on a season of the circle, he probably does pretty well, just from like the small glimpses we've got of his personality. Like I think that on average he does well. And like as we saw from this season, 5 out of the initial 8 players ends up making the finale in some capacity, and the other 3 were pretty just actively bad at the game. So like that's really the line. All you have to do is just not be actively bad and just be like somewhat socially competent, which he seemed to be, to like get by as an OG player. So yeah, it definitely just kind of sucks. I'm not really. I think they definitely pared back slightly on some of the later people coming in, and I think that coming in that slot is still probably like slightly too late for this length of a season. I know we have like kind of James in season 3 as an example of a later player in the US version who is able to actually win. But that's like really kind of the only super clear example of that. In the UK version, it's more common. We have like 2 out of the 3 winners of the main series were not OG players, but that's also because that series is a lot longer. It's like 20 something episodes as opposed to only 13. And it's like almost a month as opposed to like 2.5 weeks. So with how short it is, you really kind of need to not have as many players come in my opinion. I prefer maybe lengthen it to 16 episodes plus a finale. I don't know what your opinion on that would be, or if that's too long.
I mean, I'd like to see it. So
Yeah.
let's try it, because I don't think it works like very well to have someone come in this late, like to the point where it's just like I'm not even gonna bother like thinking about this player because
Yeah.
there's no way that they're gonna matter.
Yeah, I mean, even Tamira to a degree felt like after the Tamira versus Tasha or Sasha arc kind of resolved itself and Shubi went out, it didn't seem like Tamira really had any grounding at all in the game and was basically just kind of there.
Yeah.
And even at the like reunion, she didn't really contribute a lot. Even the round table, she didn't really contribute a lot. I was perplexed that she seemed surprised that she lost, because like that was like the easiest chalk. Obviously, she's not winning ever. Like I was even more confident that she wasn't winning than Jennifer wasn't winning. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, best case scenario for these players to come in this late is you're like Ed and you get to go on the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
well, I mean,
about
like I
it.
said, like the ceiling obviously is going to be like James from US Circle season 3. Like that's like very very unique circumstance. He was able to make very quick inroads, very easily kind of bust apart the OGs into like kind of a civil war, and that really was just not going to happen here because we had like the only like civil war in the OGs was like everybody except or everybody versus Marvin, and then when Marvin is removed, you still have this solid 3 block of Chaz, Sam, and Raven who are pretty easily able to just ride it out to the top 3.
Right. And it is what it is. I guess it's just a drawback of the format.
Yeah. Yeah.
One they don't seem interested in fixing.
No, I mean, I think the fix is just to make the season. I think the only fix you can realistically make is to just make the season longer, right? Like give the players who come in late more time to actually get a social foothold, and then obviously like cut off the new players entering way sooner before the end of the series, and that way you don't have to rush these late rounds where you have to do these double eliminations. Or like these quick like instant blocking things. Like you can kind of have an extra day in there where they play a game and do nothing else to like be able to give these people time to more socially integrate. That's pretty much it. Like there's no like even then the new players are still going to be at a disadvantage on average, and even then the last person to enter is still probably never going to win. Or like almost never have a chance to win, just like it's possible for people. Like I think that in a perfect world, Jennifer or Tom could have won this season with different outcomes, right?
Right.
But I think somebody coming in the Oliver slot is like almost always going to be just dead in the water.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I feel like I feel like there's no other way to do the circle. Right? I guess you could have like a jury of the people eliminated do the rankings for the winner.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be kind of interesting. But other than that, like you can't play in a visible game and win the circle, right? Like no one's ever gonna vote for Chaz number one to the point where he can win.
I would say for the most part, yes. At this point, yes. Like I think the closest you could point to something like that would be like a Joey, right? Or like it's hard. Like you can be visible, but you can't be visible and clearly socially dominant all the way through. Right?
Joey at
Like,
least had Shuby to like
yes,
take a lot of the attention off of him.
yeah, like Chaz was visible on another level. Like he was again influencer almost every single time. And the time he wasn't, I think he was third.
Right.
So like there's just no way. Like there were people in the circle who were tanking Chaz's rating, and he was still becoming influencer, and they were like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do at this point. Like obviously, like I can't not make him influencer if I'm putting him like second to last and he's still being influencer. What else am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So yeah, like when you're that far out in front of like the second most visible player, that's like not salvageable as in terms of winning.
Yeah.
And even still, he got close. He came in like coming in second is way like I expected, like you said, him to come in third or fourth.
Yeah, right? Me too. Yeah. So good for him. What do we think of Sam as a winner?
I think I said this over text to you, right? Where basically of the three of Sam, Chaz, and Raven, like them as a trio, like were basically unmatched for the entire season socially. Like they were rock solid. A lot of that was through Chaz because he was independently close to both Sam and Raven, more so than they were close to each other. So in a lot of ways, Chaz kind of kept that trio rock solid. So like obviously it makes sense that trio ends up being 1 through 3. As far as Sam compared to Chaz and Raven, I think she just made the fewest unforced errors of the three. Like we just basically went over why Chaz was never going to win. I do think that like when push comes to shove, Raven blocking Marvin ultimately loses her the game here because she eliminates her kind of pocket vote. That if she would had been able to get Marvin to the finale, Marvin cannot win, and Marvin is still probably putting Raven first in that final rating, in which case Raven is probably the winner of the season. So I would say Sam arguably had very little agency. She was influencer once, but in that influencer session, everything she had got into planning to do was completely undone, and she caved to Raven, which ended up being correct. But yeah, so I think that that's kind of where we sit. Sam was just overall very likable in the Power Alliance, not seen as super threatening despite being broadly likable, and didn't make any obvious unforced strategic errors. So solid winner. I mean, was it like impressive gameplay? No, but like you don't need super impressive gameplay to win the circle. It's like almost one of the rawest reality like social games in terms of like it's basically a popularity contest. So like
Right.
you can't like out strategize a popularity contest all the time.
Yeah. So I think ultimately pretty entertaining season of The Circle. What do you think? You've seen like every season of The Circle, so what's your
Yeah. I would say probably middle of the road. I think like there were some good like drama moments. A lot of the arcs were pretty solid. Like we talked about like the Marvin arc and like the Jennifer downfall arc, the Jennifer and Tom like alliance into betrayal was really solid. Like this trio kind of riding things all the way through. I think Sam as a winner from a story perspective is really good. Even like apropos of her being strategic or social in a specific way. I think Chaz as like kind of a domineering like anti-villain or whatever you want to call him, compelling gameplay and strategy perspective. There wasn't a lot to chew on compared to a lot of other seasons. I don't. There wasn't really like a super strong villain. So it's hard because like I really like villains, and it felt like there wasn't really one. Like I think like they tried to make Jennifer the villain, but like at best Jennifer was like a bumbling villain, but also the rootable underdog in a lot of ways. So it didn't really work, at least for me. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on? Or your kind of overall thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought the cast was very interesting and likable. Like you said, there was no villain. Based on the reaction to some of the villains I've seen on Twitter, maybe a good thing. Some people got a lot of shit for playing a villain on The Circle, which
Yeah.
is crazy to me. I mean, people need to chill. I think that sums up Twitter the best. Is like everyone here needs to calm down.
Look, as far as circle villains, like I said on this podcast before, like I love Manrika, like from the UK series 3, like one of my all-time favorite reality TV villains. I think that like the amount that she leaned into it, and like she was insufferable at points, but like she's like beautiful. Like that's kind of my gold standard for like a compelling villain in The Circle, and she gets like this kind of face crack downfall moment in the end, and it's like it's very it's like a very good arc for a character and for a villains. That's kind of my gold standard, and nothing really even touched that in the season. So
Right. Yeah, no, not really. Nothing was too villainous in this season. More like Jennifer was like a villain of circumstance. Like
yeah.
Jennifer didn't ask for the hacker power; they just got the hacker power and used it, and that was villainous, I guess,
Yeah.
of itself. Even though they're just doing what the show wanted them to do. So yeah, but I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. I was happy to bring back this show and talk about The Circle. It's been very fun.
Yeah, no, definitely fun to talk about again. I assume there will be a season 6. I'd be excited to talk about that if and when that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
I
anything
mean,
else from
the show has to cost $12 to make, right?
Well,
Like, no, I mean,
you would
definitely it has a high budget, I'm sure, but not compared to like scripted shows.
you would think, but the UK version got canceled, right? Like, in my opinion, the UK version was higher quality and theoretically should have been easier to produce since the set is in London. Like
You're
the
right.
set that
Yeah,
the US uses is still also in London.
it's
It's the
still the
same set.
Circle set. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure every country that has a Circle
Yeah.
show uses the Circle building.
Oh no, it might be in Manchester actually. I think it's in Manchester, not London. But either way, it's in England. So like there's no excuse for like the Circle UK to have gotten canceled, in my opinion. All 3 of the civilian versions and even the celebrity version was fun.
Yeah.
So
listen, I don't know if they just have moved away from reality television over there. had Big Brother on for years and years, and then they stopped it, which is insane to me because like Big Brother to me is like first and foremost like the show from England, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I also wonder if like they just like aren't into reality TV that much. But is there a world maybe where one day like they give the rights to Netflix? Like I don't know what channel owns it, but like
It's Channel 4 is
mm,
the channel in the UK that it was on. I don't know what the like in terms of production company, who owns it.
mm,
I would love, obviously I don't think you've seen any of the three series or
no, I
three,
haven't
I
seen
guess
any
three
of
and a
the
half
three.
series. Like I think it would be really cool if they put them on Netflix at some point for like international
Yeah.
viewers so that you could watch those, because I think all three series have their own like I think that if I were to rank the 8 civilian series between US and UK, uh, like I think that all three of the UK series would be in my like top 4 of that 8, right?
Mm,
Like I it's just better in my opinion. The same
right.
way that I would say that like on average BB Can seasons are higher quality than modern BB US seasons.
Mm.
Similarly, I would say that the Circle UK seasons are better. So
Yeah, I guess they just don't have that dog in them anymore to just like wring every bit of value out of
Mhm.
a cheaply made show.
Yeah, and again, I do think that a lot of it comes down to the length. I think the longer seasons, like it's just not even like they don't have to be crazy long. Like a lot of them are like 24 episodes. Like I think 16 to 20 episodes is the sweet spot. Uh, and I don't know. I think there's a lot that they can do, and a lot more drama is able to come out when people are able to get a good hate into them. Because we kind of saw that start to develop at the end of this season, where Sam kind of got really pissy at Jennifer, but that kind of fizzled and never went anywhere because there was no time for it to go anywhere. There was no time for Sam to do anything about it or to like actually confront Jennifer in a way that mattered, or for Jennifer to see any like meaningful consequence other than coming last in the final ratings. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably the primary issue, is that like by the time interesting things start happening on the US version, the show ends. So
Yeah, it is just so weird to me that like Netflix clearly owns like a few versions of The Circle, just not the original version, and they
yeah,
can't get it for some reason.
not the, in my opinion, most consistently highest quality version,
Yeah.
which is
So
classic. As we referenced, in terms of BB Can, in terms of Paramount Plus, like in my opinion, the best season of BB Can is the one season that's not on Paramount.
naturally,
Yeah.
naturally. So yeah. Anything else for this season?
No, I think that's pretty much it. And then, I guess other than that, we'll be back next in terms of reality TV content to talk about is Survivor
I
42 or BB Can 11 first?
I think Survivor 42 comes the first week of March.
Okay, so I think it's
Or
pretty
44.
44. What do we say?
What are we on now?
Yeah,
I said
44.
42, but I meant
Okay.
44.
Yeah, what I might have also said the wrong number. I don't know what number I said. what we've already wiped Survivor 43 from our minds.
Yep.
It's making the
It
math
doesn't
wrong.
exist
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, so we'll be back either with the Blindsiders, me, Brian, and Dylan to talk about that with Survivor 44, or we'll be back with the Have Not Room to talk about BB Can 11. Whichever comes first. They're probably around the same time, so look forward to either of those if those are shows that you're interested in. I am very hopeful that Survivor can bounce back, because we talked about being a little bit disappointed with Survivor 43. But BB Can has been on a 2-season rise since the BB Can 8 season got canceled because of COVID.
Right.
BB Can 9 and 10 were both fire. In my opinion, 2 of the best series or seasons in the series history. BB Can 10 is again probably a top 5 season of reality television for me. So a lot to live up to for BB Can 11.
Definitely. So we'll be here covering those. I'm very excited for both of those. I have faith that Survivor 44 will be better than Survivor 43. Maybe it's like blind faith.
It would be
Who
hard for it to
knows?
be worse.
It'd be hard for it to be worse. That's very fair. And 42 I felt like was very good. So maybe it's like the even seasons are a little better.
Well, they mess around a lot, and the odd number season they're like, okay, this shit didn't work for the second one in the cycle.
Exactly. So
good
luck to anyone getting on a odd number season going forward.
And from the preview and from what I've seen of the cast, it looks to be a really fun cast. But again, it's like very little information to go on.
Definitely.
And it seems like a lot of production people are more enthusiastic in their celebration of 44, whereas in 43 a lot of it felt very forced.
Yeah.
So
it reminds me of the meme I saw where someone had like Jeff Probst before the worst season of Survivor you've ever seen, and just Karen being like, "I'm psyched. I'm so psyched."
Yeah.
It's so accurate.
You can usually tell though when it's like fake enthusiasm, where it's just like, this is the greatest season ever. I promise. Versus like, this season was actually kind of pretty good. You might actually want to tune in for this one.
Yeah, when Jeff's saying stuff like, you're gonna see things on this season that you've not seen before.
Yeah, it's like marketing talk.
Like, what does that mean, Jeff? Oh no.
History was certainly made.
And then of course I know with like the lukewarm, like, I think people are gonna like it. I think they're really gonna like this season.
Yeah, there's some people on the season that you're gonna connect with.
Yeah. Oh man. But if it's a bad season, we'll laugh through it and roast it and talk about it. So
and complain about it in every other podcast we do going forward, as we did on this podcast with BB22 and Survivor 43.
It'll be interesting if anything can dethrone the BB22 as our most hated covered season of something.
Well, I mean, I probably hated covering Celebrity BB3 more.
That's true.
Just because
I was looking at our playlist. We did 3 episodes that season of a show that like went on for longer than The Circle did.
Yeah, no, it was like that's covering that show was just like painful to the point where I didn't want to, like, there was no point during BB22 where I was like, okay, I'm completely done. It was just like, oh, I'm bored. There's nothing to talk about, right? Like it wasn't like actively.
We were stuck inside. We were captive.
Yeah.
Like it was the height of the pandemic in terms of like people not going places and doing things, and we were just stuck watching a season of Big Brother that we had spent years building up in our heads. It was like All Stars 2 gonna be so sick one day, and then it was awful.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think that's like the difference. Whereas like, I don't know if this is a controversial or like a hot take, but I would rather talk about a boring season for months than a season that I actively hate watching for weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, because like there was a couple of things to talk about with BB22. Like, and the podcasts were relatively short, so it wasn't like a lot. Whereas like Celebrity Big Brother 3, there was a good amount to talk about. It's just like it made me unhappy to talk about it and watch it.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
With that, anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, you can follow me on Twitter, I guess, at Ben Sharon. I don't like Twitter anymore. I hate the platform. It's.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Every new change that's made to the platform makes me hate it more, and that's why I don't really tweet anymore. But maybe I'll. Maybe if and when we actually get a good season of Big Brother, BB Can 11, fingers crossed, I'll be able to do some live tweeting or something like that. Because I do enjoy live tweeting about feeds on a good season of Big Brother. Just that has not happened recently. And BB Can 10 I loved, but I was always behind and like catching up or like watching feeds and not really tweeting about it. So like, that would have probably been the time where I would have done it. So I'll try and, if BB Can 11 is good, I'll try and live tweet it. Catch me there.
Muted. Sorry there. I'm
Yeah,
also
I thought that was my earphone.
No.
I was like, is that me or you?
Staying in. It's too late in the podcast for me to edit it. No, yeah, no, obviously I'm very similar with Twitter. I'm not the biggest fan of it these days. I've never been someone who tweets a lot, but I've definitely tweeted a lot less over the last like few months. But I'm still there. I'm still the fake Umar there. I do want to plug a new podcast that's on this channel. Came out the day we're recording it, the day before this comes out, which is Worth Fighting For. It's a post show for The Last of Us. I'm doing with Tamor, who's one of the co-founders with Ben and I of Wicked Good Everything, and by extension Better Radio and sports and all that. We're talking about The Last of Us. I mean, no real spoilers, but like we both really enjoyed the first episode, so that was fun to do, and I'm hoping like we'll get to have more of the extended universe. We can get everything people on as guests as the season goes along. So look for everyone there. And other than that, Wicked Sports posts almost every single day. After this, in like 5 minutes, about to record a podcast about the Bruins. Also going to drop the same day that this drops. So if you're a Bruins fan, go over to Wicked Good Sports, check that out. Main channel is, of course, Wicked Good Everything. We're on Twitter, Wicked Good Sports, WG Everything, Instagram, Wicked Everything, Twitch, twitch.tv/Wicked Everything. We need to actually stream at some point on our Twitch channel, but it will be used at some point soon. I streamed Pokemon semi recently to like kill people, so that was more just to make sure all my equipment still works, to be honest. But yeah, check us out there, and check us out on TikTok at Wicked Good Everything. Ben, thank you so much for your time as always and your expertise. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next one.